Welcome back, everybody. And I have a distinct pleasure and honor of introducing one of my great teachers, and actually the first teacher that introduced me to yoga. And I always smile telling people who are like, Raamayan, you learned yoga from the venerable lands of the Himalayas. I'm like, actually, I learned it in Vancouver under the tutelage of a white man from Detroit named Jeffrey Armstrong, who taught me about my own culture and reintroduced me back into the world of yoga. And so, Jeffrey, I'm so honored to have you here. You are one of the clearest voices I've ever heard in the world for yoga, and your capacity to bridge the East and the West is quite unparalleled. For many of you who don't know Jeffrey, he has been speaking and touring for how many, almost 40 years now, 30, 40 years, more.
And as my full-time occupation for the last 23 with Sandy.
There you go, 23 years. And his organization is called VASA, the Vedic Academy of Sciences and Arts.
Yes.
Let's start that again. Apologies, the glitch in the sound.
It happens.
It does. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the broadcast. I have my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you one of my great teachers, Jeffrey Armstrong, also known as Kavindra Rishi. And Jeffrey is the founder of VASA, the Vedic Academy of Science and Art. He was the teacher that introduced me into yoga. I grew up around the world in Hong Kong and Thailand, and I didn't have the depth of connection to my own lineage. And when I grew up in Vancouver as a young adult, Jeffrey took me under his wing. And because he'd spent the last 50, 40 years immersed in the wisdom and knowledge of yoga, and dedicated his life to it. He said, come, my young one, I'll teach you again. And so I'm eternally grateful to you, Jeffrey, and honored to have you on this broadcast to go into yoga and to discuss a lot of how the modern yogi can take the wisdom that is enshrined in this venerable tradition and use it today to create a better world, because that's what it seems that we're here to do.
Absolutely, my friend. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here with you and to be with so many people who are hungry for the beauty that yoga brings into our life to become contagious in the world, since we've been in the midst of a contagion. I like to call the Vedic knowledge Vedic Vid 108. It's an ancient virus, and you catch it when you're full of questions, when you see the beauty of life, when those questions lead you to be optimistic, and when you think there couldn't possibly be an unhappy ending to this, it must be leading us somewhere beautiful and joyful. You're ready for yoga then. You're susceptible. You could catch it. As did you, as did your brother, Samir, and as did I, at a time when I was susceptible back in the 60s. I went into an ashram in 1969 and spent 5 years as a brahmachari celibate monk, learning from authentic teacher and guru from India. So that was the beginning of my journey. But only really, the journey was interrupted, was it not? At the basis of this is all of us on an epic journey. And I like to start there. That we are all immortal beings, that we all divine by nature. Every single creature on this planet, every living entity. And when we learn to see each other in that namaste kind of way, I call it the namaste culture.
Yes.
Because then
that culture is something that I feel seems like so many of us are hungry for, and there's a part of yoga that happens on one's mat and in one's own yoga studio, but it's kind of, you doing it in a world that doesn't see that story, that doesn't support that understanding and that reality. How was it, that in India that there was the rising of a Vedic culture that supported that understanding? I mean, what does a culture look like that
has that understanding at its root, that we are divine beings, and our education and economic systems and familiar relations are supporting that journey. I mean, can you paint us a picture of what a culture like that looks and feels like?
Yes, and as I do, let me show you two secrets about this. The first is, I'm acknowledging that you are the driver of the car and not the car. You're the consciousness in the vehicle, and this is the vehicle. So not only do Black lives matter, but all lives matter is the principle behind yoga, and it is the basis of the civilization of India. So with that premise, the first thing this is that I see you. Namate means not me, but you. So for a moment, it's not about me. I'm looking at you and saying, you, I see you as an immortal being. The second part of this is that we could fall over to the left or fall over to the right. So yoga is all about continually standing in the balance point. So this also means I'm not a threat to you. I'm not going to present a threat to you, nor am I going to try to coerce you or force you to do anything. So the way I like to say this is the Vedic civilization was based not upon coercion, not upon conversion, but upon conversation. If the listener's not ready, the teacher doesn't teach. When the listener asks, would you please answer my questions? Only then do we go forward with the knowledge. With that, if you look at our world right now, all of the force that we're applying to what look like problems makes them worse. It's when we can find a way to respect one another correctly that we set the context for living together on the planet. Isn't it interesting that in my generation and yours, technology has connected us in unprecedented ways? What happened in India, in the country they call Bharat originally, is that what makes it unique is that according to their story, the supreme being that everyone else is calling Almighty came to Earth and was all friendly. That's called an avatar. So the story from India is that throughout the history of our planet, descents of the ultimate reality have come to Earth, landed, grown up, lived for 100 years or so, left behind a record, left an account of their being here, and while they were here, interacted with humans without asserting dominance, without showing that they were all powerful. So the religions of the world, the three religions especially, although each religion carries truths, I like to call it the gold that they're carrying. Everyone is carrying some gold, some truth. But they didn't have this experience in their cultural history of the Supreme actually descending to Earth and having relationships with humans. And this is the hallmark of the yogic culture. In a very real sense, yoga is the remote connection from where we are with the source of everything.
You know, I remember once you had taught me that the caste system very much was an aberration of the original understanding that each person has a different role within society, and that when we function and understand those roles or those arthas, then we can have a much more harmonious society. And I think if we, maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, the word caste is actually Portuguese and not Sanskrit. And it means power inherited by birth. So if you think about it, many civilizations around the world currently have caste systems because massive wealth is passed on to children who may or may not be qualified to wield that much power. So it's very different than we think. The caste system has its most significant impacts not at the bottom, but at the top. Because if the wrong people have billions of dollars, the world could be in danger. If the wrong people have a few $1,000s, they're not going to be able to cause too much trouble. So in fact, the things you were talking about, our particular nature, is actually called our sva dharma. But this takes us back, doesn't it, to many lives and cause and effect. So what I'd like to say first is that the Vedic view starts with a big view that says that each one of us has been on and is still on an incredible journey that we volunteered to go on. We actually volunteered to come to the material world from another place and to be here in the midst of cause and effect and go from life to life based on that cause and effect and learn whatever's to be learned here, and then when we're ready to go back to where we came from. This wider view buys us time. If you think you only have one life, it's very frightening. You have only one brief life and then you're gone, or you get punished, or something perhaps terrible happens. In the yogic view, you have all of eternity. You have a very, very long context, and you're immortal. And when we say this, we're reminding each other, chill, relax. We're immortal beings. We're here on a journey. I see you inside your vehicle, inside that body you're driving. So, with that we're not the vehicle we're in attitude, birth in a particular family doesn't make us qualified for anything. But education was supposed to find out what we're actually designed to do in life. And that's called varna, as you pointed out. The arthas, the purusha arthas, the kinds of humans are born with particular skills. I've renamed them in English: professor, protector, producer, provider. So everyone listening for a moment, just think, are you a professor? Have you become scholarly to the point that you know a knowledge base so profoundly that your job in life is to share it with others? Or are you someone who works with power and force, and then are you a policeman, a fireman, a protector? Are you someone who ideally keeps the balance in society and doesn't allow bad players to harm the innocent? You're not a bully, you're a protector. And then producers are everything from farmers to business people who keep the production and distribution of resources that we all need happening. And then providers are people who have a skill and they apply that skill in a confidential way in situations where they're needed. Now, whichever one of those you are, the others are not better or less than you. They're just the skill we have as an individual. So in the Vedic culture, instead of accepting people as what they were born, school was finding out what your best skill is and then being funneled over into a school that would train you in that, get you ready for that, and then there'd be a code of conduct for your profession. Well, we know that. There's a code of conduct for policemen. It's been in the news right now. If they don't have the right code of conduct, the force they have could be a problem. If they have the right respect for life and code of conduct as a protector, it's beautiful. So, because our subject today is unity, what I'd like this talk to represent is diversity and unity working together. I would say individuality helps to create unity, and unity is what we already have in common. We just haven't discovered it yet. And the journey of learning to do that is what we're all here doing. And yoga has come to us at a critical moment in our history. The ultimate yoga manual is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken an hour or two before 4 million warriors engaged in an 18-day battle in which all but about 10 were killed. But the Bhagavad Gita was not encouraging that killing. It was giving us a yoga manual so that we could deal with the most difficult situation. So it showed us then what would happen if we didn't learn how to get along. Now, if you think about this, what's recently happened after World War II, so it took 18 days for 4 million people to kill each other on a battlefield. Warriors, all warriors, no citizens, no children, no women, no elderly. And now, at the end of World War II, what happened? We watched a couple of 100,000 people be killed in 18 minutes with nuclear bombs. So what I would propose to you is that this set the context for yoga to be needed. Just like when the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, it was in a very adversarial context in a moment in society. So now we have this opportunity, all of us, not to be limited by our birth, but to decide we are ambassadors of divine consciousness, of an attitude that calms the situation wherever we go, of a mode of looking at each other with respect and invoking the highest being within each being to come forth, and not seeing them as their skin, not seeing them as their culture. So isn't it ironic that nuclear weapons is the context in which yoga came? We are that generation.
It's, when I was in India, I went to the Kumbh Mela and I was really interested in connecting to the roots of yoga, and spend time talking to a lot of people and sadhus and just traveling around. And I came to understand that there's, for a large period of history in India, that yogis are like white blood cells in the body of society, kind of like the spiritual immune system. And they were supported to go around and spread knowledge and healing. And, they would almost be like one yogi somewhere nearby any village. And he was somewhat outside, and people would go there and he would help them and bring the knowledge to them and bring the wisdom and the ethics and the stories to the people, kind of like a shaman would in a, whatever society. And that the yogis had that role. And nowadays, the yoga teacher world is so kind of diluted in many ways, spread out. The vision of possibility for a yogi is all a little bit there of being a white blood cell. People go to a yoga studio, many to get fit, some for healing. But, there's a deeper possibility, I feel, for yoga teachers to become these white blood cells and to...
Absolutely so. In fact, I'll tell you a secret about Kumbh Mela. In Kumbh Mela, millions of yogis come down from the mountain and all come together. So what it does for the citizens who go there is they get the association with those yogis. What it does with the yogis is they're so perfect that only in the presence of each other do they truly be forced to be humble.
Nah, that's good.
So if you're thinking, I'm smarter than everyone else, just go to Kumbh Mela.
Very much.
If you think I'm better than everyone else, just go to Kumbh Mela and just be with 5 million people all scrunched together, and you'll realize again, oh my gosh, no matter what assets I have, I'm a tiny being on an incredible journey, and your humility comes back. One more secret is the place where it's held, the rocks are made of crystal from Mesozoic times, so they get programmed with the energy of the yogis, and they vibrate with that until the next Kumbh Mela. And so the people that can't climb the mountain and go all the way up, or can't make it to the Kumbh Mela, go to the river, and those rocks are broadcasting the signal of the truth of the yogis. And this leads us to something that I thought of sharing with everyone today, which is that I've made English sayings about these things to make them a little easier. So think of ourselves. Raise your hand, first of all, if you have a cell phone. I bet all the hands are up. Right, good. Now, let me ask you, what is your body made out of? Cells. This is your cell phone, ladies and gentlemen. You are a cell phone. And the thing that was not taught to us in the West is that we are wirelessly connected to everything. We just haven't been taught how to program the cell phone. That programming is called yoga. But we are capable of being wirelessly connected to everything that exists. We just have to know how to get on the frequency, which is called a mantra. Om, that's the dial tone, what used to be the dial tone on the cell phone, on the telephone. So we are reprogramming, learning to reprogram this bio cell phone. And Sanskrit is the programming language, and the yogis are expert programmers who know how to connect us to what we intuitively think could be there, but is invisible from where we are. And that sound vibration, which I didn't start with today, but usually a teacher like myself says, Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshvaraha, Guru Sakshad, Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Before I speak, I am supposed to say, whatever I'm saying to you now, this broadcast, was given to me by yogis who were given to it by a yogi who received it originally from the divines, and those divines are present and we can connect with them by vibration and thought and emotion, and that process of linking with them is called yoga. Linking. And we are in the midst of the opportunity to do that right now because the pressure of our world has caused so many beings to wake up. And no doubt, we were in India before as yogis. At some Kumbh Mela, someone said, raise your hand if all the 5 million of you are willing to take birth in North America and become yogis. And all these hands went up. I'm all in. Yes. And here we are. Violating skin, violating culture, not being who we appear to be. That's right. We're all in disguise. We're not these bodies. We're not this color. We're not this skin. We're not our age. We're not our gender. That's just our automobile. You know that this body in Sanskrit is called the karana? It's the car.
Yep.
I know that metaphor that you give all the time in your classes. It's about, like we're chained to our wheel.
Yes. If you were handcuffed to your car and it went into a garage to get repaired, you wouldn't be able to get out from behind the wheel. So if you're handcuffed to your car when the car's towed away, aka when the body dies, you'll think that's happening to you. So what if we start there and say, what if we all are, and the Sanskrit word is the Atma, what if we all are immortal, indestructible beings who are on a long journey of learning? What if the universe is a university and we're all enrolled as students? And what if we see each other that way? Then wouldn't the way we meet strangers change? Wouldn't we have the possibility of seeing each other correctly? And wouldn't we lose our fear? And isn't fear what's being used to motivate most human action? So this is why I want to say in the midst of unity is a very important principle, and that is unbreakable individuality that does not contradict unity. A unity based on unbreakable individuality so that we see one another with the utmost of respect, and fear is vanquished and banished from our consciousness.
You know, Kavinji, the vision of yoga is in many ways linking and taking off those chains from the steering wheel, letting go. It doesn't mean we can't step back in and drive the car. Doesn't mean that car is not useful. It just means releasing the identification with that car, right?
Yes, and we're a little more careful about who we run over, aren't we?
A little bit.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And so how, I feel like this is not something that is taught so deeply in yoga today because of how it's come into the West. Bless everyone's hearts. But where are we, where is this taking, where are we going from here? There's, whoever's watching this around the world who may have heard of yoga or been practicing yoga on yoga day. And then maybe giving us some of the core tools to have in our toolbox to remember as we go on this journey.
Yes. My major in university was psychology. And when I saw that my professors were willing to send me on to get a PhD and soon to be a psychologist with patients, I realized that it was they who were insane. I also. But I realized they were going to place people in my hands just because I was clever, not because I was wise. Mm. This is what we're learning in the COVID dilemma, is that certainly disease is one of the problems of being a human, but the other problem is lifestyle. And lifestyle is what keeps us healthy, not medicine, not surgery. Those are for emergencies. Yoga teaches us how to take good care of ourselves and harmonize with nature while we're here being the immortal being. So we're kind of rubbing our head and patting our belly at the same time. Isn't it interesting to learn those two skills? So what you just said is that millions of people are learning first to embody correctly. And I say, isn't that wonderful? Will they know all of the programming skills yet? No, not quite. So imagine that everyone gets a kit and builds their home computer, but according to their time and ability at a certain rate. There's no point in being taught to program until you've built the computer. So asana, pranayama, all of the things we do to balance the body, you'll notice that all of them come to this center point. Pose, counterpose, pose, counterpose, breath in, breath out. We're being taught to find this spot. And really what's happening is the negative traumatic programming that might have been instilled in us in society by our parents, by bullies, by our upbringing, by our past karmas, is being neutralized. And as soon as the device is ready, we're ready to start using Sanskrit and mantras to program it. So yoga always proceeds in stages of evolution, and we should never look down at a stage we've finished and go, why aren't you here? Because this is a university, so that means everyone's in a grade, and if they're below you, you did that grade when you only knew that. If they're above you, lucky you, because now you can move faster if you're ready. So this humility and this grand vision, is my thinking, is what just needs to be given to all yoga practitioners at the beginning. You're an immortal being. We're all here as immortal beings. We're all from different backgrounds and cultures. But what we have in common is eventually we're going to learn to program this device so that it doesn't harm anyone unnecessarily, so that it lives here with the least amount of chaos and harm, and so that we regain our awareness of who we really are. Anyone doing any of those things on that journey, I bow to with the utmost respect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're in the game in a now conscious way. But those of us who've been in the game for a while, I'll tell you the biggest experience is that the English language and the European languages haven't had yoga for a while, so they don't have a programming language that's as precise as Sanskrit. So one of the most important things I can say to all practitioners of yoga is that English does not have words to describe the realities that are described in Sanskrit. We just don't have the words. As a result, just as if you were learning programming on a computer, Sanskrit is the programming language of yogis, and it's not a matter of nationalism, it's a matter of technique. It's such a precise language that it has words for things about which our other languages don't have words. In other languages, we have millions of object words, but subjective reality words we don't have enough of. So this is why Dharma, Karma, Moksha, Atma, Paramatma, Bhagavan. As I was doing my mantras this morning, I was doing one of my favorite mantras, the 108 names of the sun. So I wanted to use this as an example. Picture the sun. We're all familiar with it. And all yogis who've been around know that the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur-Bhuvasva Tatsavitur-Vareniyam, we sing it in the morning to connect with the light of the sun and install it inside of us, called getting enlightened, instead of endarkened. So we automatically get endarkened when we sleep. So yogis wake up and enlighten. Now, what I didn't know for a long time is that that sun has got scientific names in Sanskrit, and there are 108 specific names for frequencies of reality that the sun is emanating. So if you became a sun scientist, you would not just know one mantra to the sun, or one or two things about the sun, infrared, ultraviolet, the spectrum of colors. Instead, you'd know the 108 specific vitamins, specific rays, specific qualities of enlightenment. PhD course, Sun 501. And I'm not going to do the whole mantra, it would be too much. But it starts with the first name, Surya. It goes Surya, Aryaman, Bhaga, Tvastar, Pushan, Arka, and so on. So this means a more sophisticated meditation on the sun. Be like a scientist who can tell you about how different frequencies of broadcast, like we're doing right now, how they work and how they make the broadcast possible. There are scientists sitting in the background right now making this broadcast possible.
Yeah. Well, just to speak to that for a minute, because Ananda, do you want to say something here?
Either one.
It evokes such respect and awe that, you know, there's a culture with such a deep love of the Dharma, of understanding the universe, of understanding how things work and how to be in relationship with it, you know, and in a scientific and reverential way, and to know it from within. It's sometimes it's almost hard, I imagine, for people to comprehend that, you know, this was the ethos of people for thousands of years. I mean, this was the inquiry, this was the project, and so many people are working on it and contributing. it's just remarkable to envision that, you know.
Well, I just want to go back to your original question, Zamir, because I feel like I want to hear it from Jeffrey's lips, as I have many times before, as he's described and paint a picture of what a dharmic culture looks like. You inspired me very much, Kavindraji, when you showed me what is possible when all the pieces fit together. And as you've taught me, yoga is Yotish. It is Ayurveda. It's all of these functioning pieces. It's the dharmas working together. So maybe I'll let you just paint that picture, so that we can understand what we're aiming towards with this yogic culture.
Yes, and I love what Zamir just said, that what you find out after a while, I'll give you the Sanskrit term for this, it's buddhi. The word Buddha comes to us from the Sanskrit word buddhi. And buddhi is not intellect, it's discernment. It's the ability to go into something and truly understand it, truly learn of its nature, and to go deeper and deeper and deeper and make very refined distinctions. That ability to look at everything around us, and what we see evidence of is what motivates our quest. Isn't quest asking questions? So we should look like scientists at the universe around us and say, who could make such beauty? Raise your hand. Show me a scientist who can make an orchid. Show me a scientist who can make a lotus, a flower that smells like that comes out of mud, rises above water, and blows your mind, drives you mad with its beauty. This is science also. But that someone not only made that, but that they made it so beautiful. So in a very real sense, the Vedic culture, the yogic culture of India, was a stage of evolution on our planet where the whole culture was enwrapped in that wonder. And the reason there are so many branches of Vedic knowing is that biodiversity and a love for nature is what we find when we look carefully. And the more you look, the more you see. And the more you see, the more amazed you are. That I have a saying about this, that a scientist is someone who can tell you everything about the love letter but refuses to read it. A yogi is someone who can do both. They look at the details, they look at the science, and they go, can you believe that? And then they look at the beauty, and it drives you mad. So this is an important part of yoga. Letting life drive you mad without making you crazy. There's a saying, if people are dancing but you can't hear the music, you'll think they're crazy. And this world is the evidence of miracles after miracles. Each one of us is a miracle walking around. We just forget. So to get in this miraculous consciousness raises two questions. If I said to you, tonight there's a gathering of all the greatest scientists on our planet at a museum where they've made exhibits to demonstrate what they know, would you like to go, see the exhibits, and then meet the scientists? If we innocently look at each other and the world around us, we should have enough inspiration and hunger and adore what we see so much that we nourish it. It flourishes under our care. And this is the moment we're all standing at. We're finally conscious enough to see each other, see the world, and science has given us enough power to destroy it all in 18 minutes. That's the koan of our generation. If your generation, I bow to you again and again, even more than mine, you are the deciders. You are either going to grab science and use it to control the world and be wealthy, and that'll be the end, or you're going to look at science and say, yeah, but we need to match that with love, beauty, and wisdom and respect. I see you looking for that unity, and I bow to you. You're the hope. And all these yogis are the hope. And I think we need to talk like that. Not like, how smart are you? What have you lost? What are you missing? Not less than, but more than. Does that answer some of it? Ask me another question as you like.
Okay. That feels really good.
There's a word in Sanskrit, samskriti.
Samskritam.
Samskritam. Can you? I think this is what more Raamayan is looking at. Is this? What is that? The essence of that word? If you want to explain it to people.
Yes.
Well, let's say that in the beginning there was brilliance, and the brilliance populated our planet on purpose. The Vedas actually say that at a certain point, a group of beings called Manus, which is where the word mankind comes from, not male, but Manusya, the beings who are intelligent enough to wait till a planet is ready and then plant the human DNA and then educate those humans on the whole process of existence. Tell them who they are. Tell them they're here on a journey. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, in the beginning I sent forth the generations of devas, divine beings, and humans, and I said, reciprocate with each other, and you will flourish. Those devas are the ideals, the laws of nature, us, the humans of nature. We're just at a pivotal point right now. We've got to have a language of talking to each other about harmonizing with the universe. So let's call Dharmony, harmony, and Dharmocracy. What does Dharma mean? Dharma means working cooperatively with nature. The Dharma of everything is its essential nature because of the way that it's been constructed. The correct use of it is its Dharma. The correct use of each of us, the correct use of everything. What is correct? So the optimum benefit comes to everyone.
Beautiful.
And the word Sanskrit means a language perfected that would not degrade over time or drift away from its meanings. So you'd have a scientific language for understanding where we are, who we are, what we're doing. So this perfected language, each new word you learn, Dharma gives us harmony. The DR of Dharma became the TR of truth, of the word tree, trioth, troth. And that truth telling, that Dharma, creates harmony and Dharmony. And what has happened to democracy? Well, I'm sorry to say this, but we started out by committing genocide in North America and killing about 400 million people and taking their land. Did we think there was no karma from that? And then they gave us what they called the honest, truthful way of living, and it became democracy. But look what's happened. Now democracy's degenerated to two groups of people who hate each other and speak despicably to one another.
Yeah, like demonocracy.
Absolutely. So what we need is dharmocracy. We need to find a way to come together with each other with mutual respect, with this wider, larger, greater viewpoint. We need to look at each other with admiration because you're on this amazing journey. And yoga is just at its infancy right now. If we just step carefully with it, it's going to bring enough of us to the balance point that we can just tip the unbalanced planet back in its orbit. And interestingly enough, that's what every avatar of Vishnu did. Krishna being the most recent, when he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Upanishads, the Isa Upanishad, all teach us in very simple, precise words the things we've just talked about. The very essence of yoga is Dharma. The very essence of Dharma is the harmonizing with the laws of nature. Our individuality can destroy the world or work harmoniously with it. That unity is voluntary. So we must have individuality to do it. Therefore, we must offer our individuality to the greater intelligence that has made the universe, that yoga, linking us all together, but chosen by each of us, then allows us to see and respect one another, to be humble and brilliant. And the two of you have been, if I may say this, two of the most brilliant listeners, students, responders, and because you were privileged by birth to be poised and ready for this wisdom, you are examples, from my perspective, of someone who was born to receive this and stood right up into it. I had to fight like anything to get it. I had to not go to Vietnam. I had to not do this, not do that, fight against a myriad of other things. But you're going to lead the next stage, which asks the question, destroy each other or harmonize? Unity or insanity? Your call.
So real, though.
So real.
So real.
And,
this is just not
and you have no choice. You don't have a choice in this. This is all that you get to do.
Yeah, this is all we get to do. And, I can't tell you all who watching how many times I've sat at Jeffrey's feet in his class with thick notebooks that I'm sure I know Sadie is saying, are you all taking notes? Yes, we should all be taking notes. And a lot of my life is devoted to creating systemic change on this planet. A group of us have created things called the Manifesto for a New Earth, the Unanimous Manifesto. We're crowdsourcing solution architectures for this planet. But what I've come to see after being in hundreds of these groups and hundreds of these conversations is that the core nucleus of this is actually yoga. You can call it whatever you want.
Do you know what I thought when you said that?
What?
I've got to tell you, please. I thought, please rename it Man and Woman Manifesto.
Well, you're the one who told me man is manas, not man.
But the rest of the world doesn't know yet. And so the other piece of this puzzle, and I have to say this so everyone hears it loud and clear, the missing vitamin was, as I grew up, I looked at the female beings and they were so incredible, so beautiful, so gracious, so profound, so giving of themselves, so the basis of life. But the churches I went to, the religions I learned from, didn't say a word about this. No one said the male and female divine, but the yogis. And they said, there's never a time, nothing exists without a masculine and feminine component. And the feminine divine, in my opinion, the ladies of this world who've taken to yoga first on a 8-to-1 or 9-to-1 ratio are the salvation of this world. If they get it, that they're learning yoga to become the voice of reason to stop us from destroying each other and the planet. The feminine divine is the missing vitamin that yoga has brought back. And how can we heal Mother Earth without Mother Divine? I do not think we can. I do not think we men can breastfeed the planet back to health. I believe that we can say to all of the female yogis, please lead us to balance, to health, to lifestyle, to another way of living. Show us your heart and compassion. Teach us to love again. Teach us to use the strength of the masculine to protect, not exploit.
Thank you, Kavindraji. Thank you for being here with us and for giving us a little glimpse and a little taste of your wisdom. And thank you for those last messages and those last words. And right after you, we have the beautiful offering of C.C. White, Soul Kirtan, who's a powerful Black gospel singer who took to Kirtan and brought her powerhouse gospel energy into the devotional space of Kirtan and just rocked everybody's worlds around the world. When you fuse that culture, that passion, that love, that brilliance, that energy with the devotion of Kirtan, you're all about to get in for a treat.
Well, I also want to say to you that every word that I'm saying to you, the fact that I'm here manifesting in this way is because of my beloved partner, Sandy Graham. And she and I have walked every step of the last 23 years together with a single intention: to embody as two divine beings, one in a male and one in a female body, the possibility that we can all love and honor and adore one another, and that it is in embracing life correctly that we perfect it. And that is bhakti. The last secret of yoga is divine love. Everything else gets us ready to be overwhelmed by the beauty and not harm anyone in that state of mind, but to actually embody that love in everything that we do. And the trouble you're taking, both of you, to reach out to the world is the personification of that great wish. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And for, a few things to just mention here. Jeffrey Armstrong has a wealth. He's been teaching for 23 years and has hundreds and hundreds of courses online. So you see the link right here for jeffreyarmstrong.com. You're never going to get everything in a single talk. I've tried hundreds of them. And so he breaks down the 8 limbs of yoga, the 5 paths of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita. And speaking of the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita comes alive. So before we go, I know we only have a couple minutes left here, but Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavindraji, you've been working on this Bhagavad Gita for over 10 years now, and you're about to release it this October. And for those who don't know, I can speak for this because I've been in the realms and the throes of this since you started working on it, is that the Bhagavad Gita is that principal text of yoga. And what Jeffrey has done is that he's taken 10 years to meticulously take out the words from the Bhagavad Gita that have been anglicized, that have been taken from the Judeo-Christian faith and placed into the Gita, that distort its true meaning, and gone through literally word by word for 10 years to bring back the codex of the original meaning of this principal text of yoga. And so that's coming out in October. And so we'll be announcing it here on Unify as soon as I was asking Sandy, is it going to go up for pre-sale? She's like, not yet. But as soon as it does, we'll be bringing it through the Unify audience.
Thank both of you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us. And let me just say that what is the hallmark of that Bhagavad Gita, so let us all think of this as what is possible next, is that Bhagavan came to earth and was Arjuna's best friend. He gave the Bhagavad Gita in the mood of friendship. If we can learn to see each other in that mood and see each other in a divine way, we can change this world in the softest and most loving way. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. And for all those who are watching on the stream right now, we're going to end the stream and start a new one for the rest of the broadcast because we've reached our 8-hour limit. So maybe go to the bathroom, take a deep breath, come back, just go to facebook.com/unify/live. You'll see the new stream up shortly, and we'll be back with CC White. Namaste.
Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo